Okay, so we are going to make a fresco. This is connected to our art appreciation assignment because our artist that we're looking at is Michelangelo, and he is very famous for his paintings of the Sistine Chapel. Those were created using a technique called fresco, which is painting on wet plaster, which is commonly used for murals, such as painting on walls or ceilings, like Michelangelo did in the Sistine Chapel. So we are going to look at two different types of frescoes. One of them is Bona fresco, which is the true fresco. This is painted on wet plaster. The paint mixes into the plaster as the artist paints, and it becomes a part of essentially the wall itself. It's very durable, very long lasting, which is why even after hundreds of years, we can still go to Italy and we can still see Michelangelo's frescoes. Frescoes are very vivid. They have very intense colors. So that is one benefit of that type of fresco. The other type of fresco is secco fresco, which is kind of just the opposite. So Bona fresco is painting on wet plaster. Secco fresco is painting on dry plaster. So once the plaster is already dry, you go ahead and paint on it. The difference is the colors don't become a part of the plaster. They don't mix in with the plaster. They sit on the surface. And so it's not as durable. It tends to fade very easily. The colors are not as bright. They're not as vivid. So what we are going to do is we are going to attempt doing the Bona fresco, which means we have to work very quickly in order to paint while the plaster is still wet. However, we do have to wait for it to set a little bit so that it's not too wet to move our brush across the surface. So let's go ahead and go through the steps to set up our fresco. You guys are going to be creating a fresco of either a bird or a fish. You have either already created this drawing or you're going to create it while your plaster is setting. Okay, this is what you need. When you get to the back of the room, you're going to grab a board, and on the board you are going to place a piece of foil. You are going to use a Sharpie to write your first and last name. Okay, then you are going to get a double piece of paper towel, so there should be two of them. Go ahead and place that on top of the foil. You're going to get a piece of burlap. Burlap is like a very loose weaved sort of twine textile. You're going to get a piece of tape, and you're going to put your name on here and your class period. Your name is going to get turned over, so it's on the back. The reason that we're pouring this on the burlap is that it creates a nice sturdy backing. So if it cracks or anything, it's not going to crumble into pieces. It will still hold together. Okay. Now you're going to have a mixing cup or bowl, and you are going to first put your water. Water first. You're going to use the little red cup, this little red cup. You're going to fill it with water. That's how you know exactly how much you need, all the way filled to the edge. You're going to put that in first. First, the water. Okay. Next, you are going to get the plaster. There's a little black cup for the plaster. Same thing, you're just getting this scooped all the way. Shake, shake, shake. You don't want it, heaping up like a mountain. You want it kind of level, but it's okay if there's like a little bit sticking up. Okay, now I'm pouring this into the water. Don't like plop it all in all at once. You don't want to splash at you. Okay, there we go. Once you pour this in, you're going to get a craft stick and you are going to stir this up. You want to stir it up quickly. You want to try and get rid of any lumps of like dry plaster. And make sure it's all nice and even. This needs to be done quickly because the plaster, we don't want it to start to set inside the bowl. I would spend no more than 20 seconds stirring it up. Once it's all combined and there aren't any lumps, you are going to pour it right into the center of your burlap square. It's not a perfect square, whatever. Your burlap section. Scrape, 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 scrape. It's okay if you don't get every last little bit out. Don't worry about that. Okay. So yeah, it's still gonna be stuck to the bowl a little bit. That's okay. Now I'm going to spread this out. I don't want to scrape it down really low. I want this to still be a little bit thick. And I want to leave a little border around the edges on my burlap. I want to do this quickly because I don't want this to start setting before I've spread it out. It's all right if you don't have perfect even edges. It's okay if this looks like a bit more of a blob. I'm pushing mine out into more of a square or a rectangle shape. You don't have to do that. You can keep it more organic edges. So it looks like it has been broken away from an original fresco, like a fragment. That's fine. Okay, once you have it spread out and it's not too shallow, just gonna scrape that off. Okay, once you've got it spread out pretty good, all right, now, wipe my finger off. You're gonna pick up the foil, not up high, just a little bit up from the board, and you're just gonna drop it down once, twice, 3 times to help level it out a bit. I still have like one sort of high point right here. Try and even that out. Okay, I'm gonna do it one more time. 2, 3. Okay, that's gonna help make it slightly more even so it doesn't have a bumpy texture to the surface. If you still see some like bumps on there, don't worry about it. It's not a big deal. Now we need to let this set for 15 minutes. So use that Sharpie, and on the side you're going to look at what the time is. Look at the clock. Right now the clock says 2:13 for me. So I'm gonna write 2:13, and I'm gonna come back in 15 minutes. I need to come back in 15 minutes to start painting, okay? So once you have this, leave this in the back, go back to your table. You're gonna take out your Chromebook. You're gonna look up either a bird or a fish, and you need to write down exactly what type of bird it is or what type of fish it is. make a sketch of it. You don't need to color it. I colored this one because I got distracted, okay? But you don't have time. You only have 15 minutes. So find a bird or a fish, make a quick observational sketch, and then you're going to come back and you're going to check on your plaster. If when you come back and you touch the surface of your plaster and it's coming off on your finger, it is not ready, okay? But if it just feels wet and it's not coming off on your finger like it is right now, then it will be ready to paint. So let's come back in 15 minutes. Okay, our 15 minutes is up and my plaster is no longer coming off on my fingers. So when I start, I want to do this very light. So I want more water, a lot more water, so that I can make my sketch really light, because I can't erase.